Thank you for joining us today for the webinar entitled Additive Manufacturing for Electronics Devices by Dr. Khalid Rahman, who has graciously joined us today. This webinar is brought to you by IEEE PAF-KIET Student Branch. We are extremely delighted to have Dr. Khalid Rahman with us today, who is also an associate professor in the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering at Ghulam Isa Khan Institute of Engineering Sciences and Technology, and he has received his BS in mechanical engineering from GIK as well. And he has done his MS and PhD degree from Jeju National University, South Korea in 2012. He has also the industrial experience of 7 years in design and manufacturing. His research interests include printing technologies, and he is currently working on direct ink write and electro-hydrodynamic inkjet printing for fabrication of electronic devices, sensors, and applications. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us today. And before we begin, all our participants are requested to keep your mics and videos turned off during the entire session. We will have a Q&A session at the end, which you can raise your hand and the host will give you the opportunity to ask your questions. You can also send your questions or messages to the host via chat with your name and affiliation at the end. Please be attentive during the session as there will be a short and easy quiz at the end which will be sent to you through email along with the recording of the webinar. You will be given 24 hours to attempt the quiz in order to be eligible for the certificate. The certificates will also be emailed to you within 1 week from today. Now, without further ado, we'll hand over the control to our most esteemed speaker, Dr. Khalid Rahman.
Thank you very much for introduction. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Khalid Rahman, and I will be discussing about that additive manufacturing for electronic devices. This will be okay. We will have presentation outline. I will discuss briefly about what is additive manufacturing. Then the future electronics. So what will be the future electronics? Some of the devices already existing in the market. Then what is it? How these devices, traditionally electronic devices, were fabricated, and then this is a relatively new technology for fabrication of electronics devices. We call it printed electronics. So what is printed electronics? We will discuss. Then I will discuss about the non-contact printing technologies, and in that technology, the two technology we are working at GIK Institute. That is, one is direct ink writing, and the other one is electro-hydrodynamic printing technology. So this is a brief presentation outline. Now, let's see. What is additive manufacturing? Usually we know 3D printing as additive manufacturing. So it's basically we are building an object layer by layer by putting a material. And this additive manufacturing technology, you can heard of 3D printing, rapid prototyping. So other name can be a direct digital manufacturing or layer manufacturing or additive fabrication. So what you have a CAD model, computer design model. You convert into format .stl format. Then you define the tool path or layer by layer path of the printing. Then you give this command to the 3D printer and you get a 3D part. So this is basically a 3D printing that we know. Everyone knows how this 3D printing works. But there are different type of additive manufacturing processes in the market. Some are commercial, some are still under research phase. So for example, this wet photopolymerization, in which you have a molten polymer and laser strikes it and you get the part in the end. And you have to do some post-processing as well. And then there is a material jetting, means you directly deposit the material on the substrate and you get a 3D part. And usually you have wax, you have other polymer, some photopolymer or sand, those type of material you use to print the 3D object. Then material extrusion, you directly extrude the material, plastic, nylon. FDM is that is a common 3D printer. FDM, fused deposition modeling, that is a common 3D printer available, easily available. And these are the. Then we have a binder jet, in which we have a powder form material with a powder form, and we put binder or liquid glue on that. And by controlling the deposition, we get a 3D part. Similarly, this is a powder fusion, bed fusion. Again, powder, instead of putting some binder, you process it with a laser, you solidify it, and you get the 3D material. There is a sheet lamination, multiple sheet, you press it, you bound it, then you get a 3D structure. And the last one is direct energy deposition. So basically, these additive manufacturing, you will find mostly the manufacturing industry, or maybe something like that. And they use to print 3D part, maybe functional part, or maybe some decorative part. And this type of technology, that is this polymerization, material jetting, and material extrusion, that you can print metal part directly, indirectly, whereas these technology, binder jet, powder fusion, sheet lamination, and direct energy deposition, that you can print metal part. Now, how to fabricate electronic devices using this technology, additive manufacturing. Okay, let's see. First, let's what is the future electronics. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen this movie, Minority Report, in which Tom Cruise is a main character. And if you see this man sitting and he's holding a newspaper, and you can see the suddenly there is a change in news, and you have a breaking news, and it's a simply sheet of paper. Uh, Now, this movie was released in 2002. In 2007, the Sony first introduced research was performed, and this is a research-based uh, rollable screen. Then in 2015, this is an 18-inch screen, and you can see this is foldable, right? And this was introduced by LG. Uh, and in 2019, now in international market, maybe it will be available in Pakistan as well, the foldable mobile phone screen. We have a smartphone touch screen, and this is foldable. Now let's see another few other example of today's electronics as well. Now, have you seen, this is another movie. If you see science fiction movie, you will find a lot of new technology. Now, if you see this, that this main character, that the Ultraviolet, released in 2016, that swipes some card, and it says some phone, and it start printing. And if you listen to the dialogue over here, so that vending machine is saying printing disposable phone. Okay. Now, if you see, there are a few examples as well. There's real world example. This is a device. It can measure humidity, it can measure temperature, and it can measure some gas as well. And it displays result, and it's on the plastic sheet. This is commercial light, bendable light, LED light from LG display. This is a stretchable battery, and it can be stretched 200 times of its size, and it is experimentally produced by UIUC, University of NSF in Champaign. This is a foldable plastic organic solar cell. Konarka Technologies, they are pioneer in producing this type of solar cell. This is experimental wireless power flexible electronics, this antenna that harvests the wireless energy. Uh, this is a Coca-Cola sign, and it will be illuminated. So for display, for signage, and there are different, if you see, flexible or not on the traditional silicon substrate electronics. Nowadays we have a smart textile, also known as e-textile. So you have a display, or you have a bio application as well, monitoring the vital signs of human being, especially for athletes and all. Instead of putting these leads, simply the sensor embedded in the shirt. Or for the athletes, smart shoes, sensing your pressure, enhancing your performance. Now, there is another technology rapidly growing, especially in automotive sector, that is mold electronics. Means when you're molding some plastic part, you embed the electronics in it. And in the future cars will not have PCB or circuit board. They will have in mold circuits or electronic devices. This is 3D printed structure, means the uh, uh, 3D printing with the electronics combined together. And this is first all 3D printed PCB, means the PCB material, that plastic material is also printed along with this connection. They are also printed, and this is recently developed by a company, Nano Dimension. Now, few other examples, especially bioelectronics, future electronics. And you all know this is, the glucose test strip. Okay. Now the electrode in glucose testing strips, they are screen print. And you can see this is again glucose monitoring, experimental strips, but this is a simply patch on the skin. Or you can directly print some sensor or monitoring device on your skin. Like for example, is this on the top surface on the hand, directly printed circuit. And also if you see this at the bottom on the finger, you have LED, and these are gold connection printed to that. This is a Stanford University research. This is a printed device, electronic device, and with your sweat, it can monitor roughly around 20 different types of uh, diseases. So it's experimental, but this all is electronic device. And this is a conceptual, but over here, this is actual, but again under research. So this is basically a flexible uh, uh, printed device. It can measure your uh, sweat, using sweat. It is a pH sensor, it's a thermometer, and it's other sensors as well. And it can monitor your wound, and it can release the drug as well. Now, if you look at this future electronics, it's a flexible. It can be stretchable, it will be bendable, it will be wearable, and it can be a disposable, right? So the future electronics, if you see, it must contain any one or all of any one of the this property, and also maybe it can contain all property as well. But the issue is with the today's manufacturing technology, the electronic device fabrication. Let's see. Now, usually the electronic device, the common method is photolithography. Maybe you know that the process photolithography. So you have a substrate, silicon substrate. You have a silicon oxide layer, because silicon is semiconductor. So you have a silicon oxide layer that is insulated. Then you put some photoresist. Now, what you will do some coating on that, and then you will put photoresist, and then you will expose with the ultraviolet light, and the photoresist will remove. Then you etch it, chemically etch it, and then you will get the required feature. If you see, that is, there is a multiple steps, and there is a coating involved as well. Now, this coating, there are different method of coating. One is known as physical vapor deposition. Again, you have to generate high vacuum. So you have a vacuum, you have some thin film, you have a material, you apply a high voltage, and it evaporate and it deposit on the substrate over here. So this is a target sputtering. There's a gas, but with vacuum, and you deposit thin film on the material, on silicon. There is a E-beam. You need in vacuum, you provide a beam source to the material, it evaporate and it deposit on the substrate. Then there is a atomic layer deposition. So again, this is a vacuum process. You have a precursor, you some have material in it, you deposit step by step on the substrate. Then you have a chemical vapor deposition. And this is another example of E-beam, high quality E-beam deposition. Now, if you see this all method of coating that is required for the electronic device fabrication, traditionally, they are vacuum based. And if you see the photolithography process, that is a subtractive, means you are removing the material. Depositing it, then you're removing it. You deposit it, you remove it. And the biggest drawback is you need a clean room. Like, for example, if you look at the Intel manufacturing facility, that is a clean room. So you need a clean room for those type of device fabrication or traditional device fabrication. Now, instead of these all 6 steps, for example, you have a silicon substrate, you deposit something, you put photoresist, you expose it with the UV light, then you develop it, you etch it, and you strip it. So it needs 6 steps. Instead of all these 6 steps, if you can do direct printing, means if you can directly deposit material through additive technology, then with a single step, you can fabricate a device. Now, this technology is known as printed electronics. Now, what is printed electronics? Is a different printing methodology to create electrically function devices. And it's the same printing technology as a graphical printing industry. Now, for example, in traditional printing, you have ink, different color ink, and you have a sheet, roll, paper, even you do printing on the textile as well. And you have a different type of printer, inkjet printer, graver, flexo, we will discuss these. And you print text or color picture of magazine or maybe on some cloth as well. Now, if you replace those coloring with a conductor or insulator or semiconductor or some sensing material, again using the same material, printing technology on a different substrate, that can be sheet, roll, paper, plastic, or foil, you can print an electronic device and it will be functional. So basically, printed electronics is, instead of printing these images, it's beyond color. Means you directly printing the functional electronic devices. It can be a PCB, it can be any sensor. We will just and all those examples that I discussed previously, all those examples are either totally fabricated through printed technology or through hybrid technology. Now, that is, printed electronics is basically using your printing processes to to fabricate electrically functional devices. Now, there are different printing technology that is currently being used as a for the device fabrication. So there is a known as slot die coating. So you have an ink delivery, you have a small slot, and you have a small opening over there, and basically you are coating a substrate with some functional material. Then there's a gravure printing. Usually textile industry and newspaper printing, they usually print through this roll-to-roll printer, and you have a gravure printing, or maybe you have microgravure offset printing or flexographic printing, in which you have an ink, you have a pattern, that pattern is transferred to the substrate, and you dry it. Either you put directly with a gravure roller is contact with the substrate, or through some blanket cylinder or some other media. Screen printing is also widely used